Okay, now this is really cool. We're going to be working today with some formulas that have parentheses in them, so you're grouping your content. And we're really sort of studying two things. We're studying the order of operations. So we know that anything that's inside of a parenthesis is handled first, and then exponents are handled next, and so on. So we're working with formulas, and we're working with more complex formulas, but we're also working with a tool inside of Excel that will help us to evaluate our formula to make sure that we're getting the results that we're supposed to get. Now what you see here is a worksheet that is created for this lesson, and I have some formulas right here. And so we're going to look at these four formulas. And by the way, if you want to know what cells in your worksheet have formulas, then up here on the Formula tab, just come over to the Formula Auditing group and then click on Show Formulas. And when you do, it will show you the actual contents of any cell. So right now we can see up here that A1 all the way down through row 10, that what we have up here are just numbers. It could be text, it could be numbers, it wouldn't make any difference. They're just values. But we see down here in A13, 14, 15, 16, that these are formulas. And so we can actually see the formulas themselves. But whenever we click back and take off the Show Formulas, we're back to where we have just the values that those formulas give us. So I want us to look at these formulas, and I want us to learn why organizing your content according to the order of operations is so important, and how it is that Excel can help you to see this. So we take this first formula here, and we're going to come up again on the formula bar and come back over to the same area where we saw the link to Show Formulas, and come down right here below it. There is one that's called Evaluate Formula. Make sure your cell is selected that has the formula in it, and then click Evaluate Formula. And you're going to get a little box that's going to come up, and this box shows you the formula that's in the selected cell. And then down here below we have some buttons. One is to evaluate, and then there's a step in that we'll look at later. So we click, first of all, just step in. And notice, before we click the first, notice that Excel has underlined where it's going to start. So right now, the step that will happen whenever we evaluate is that Excel will look to see what to do with that reference right there to A1. So evaluate, and it changes it to a 5, and that's because in A1 there is a 5. And then the formula says plus the value at B2, and notice that Excel right now, when I click evaluate, it's going to evaluate what's at B2, which should be the value of 10. So let's click it. And by the way, let me just go ahead and show you. If I wanted to find out what that value is before I click on evaluate, I can click step in, and it will drop down and tell me that it's about to put a 10 right there in that spot. And then my evaluate's gone and step in is gone. So it gives me the option here to step out. So I'm going to click that, and it takes me right back where I was. So it's giving me the 5 at A1 plus the 10 that we had at B2. And now it's looking for the value at cell C3, which should be a 7. We can verify that by clicking step in. It sure is. So we click out, and there we go. Now we have 5 plus 10 times 7. So it's gone to those cells and it's found all of the values. And now Excel has to consider the order of operations. And you remember the PEMDAS, parenthesis exponent, and then the third highest level of precedent is multiplication. So that's what it's going to do first, because addition comes way down next to the last. So multiplication first, so it's going to multiply 10 times 7, evaluate, and that gives us 70. And then the last thing would be 70 plus 5, and it gives us the value of 75, and that's what we see in the cell, 75. So this is how we take a look at a formula to see how Excel is calculating that formula. So let's do the second one down here, and I'm going to click Evaluate Formula. And here, notice I've taken and put parentheses around A1 and the B2. And then I want to multiply the sum of A1 and B2, add those together, and then multiply times 3, and we'll get quite a bit different answer. So let's walk through the evaluation. We first of all find the value in A1. It gives us 5. And then it's going to look for that same value, B2, which would be 10. And now notice that we have here inside the parenthesis, we have the line right here because in the order of operations, parenthesis comes first. So it's going to have to solve this little problem right here, 5 plus 10, before it can deal with a multiplication, because parenthesis comes before multiplication. So 5 plus 10, and it gives us 15. And now what we have left is 15 times the value at C3. So it's going to, on the next step, it's going to look for that value of C3. And that, again, is a 7 value. So evaluate here, that gives us 15 times 7. And then we click again, and that gives us 105. So let me show you one more. By the way, just click close to close this little evaluate formula dialog box. And one more. And we're going, this is a lot more complicated. And just to show you, by the way, I'm going to show you one thing that you can do. If you want to see what these formulas are, I'm just going to come right here and use a function. This is called formula text. And then it has a parenthesis, and I have to tell it what cell. So it's this cell right here. Enter that. So now I can just copy this and bring it on down. And now what I see is the actual formula is reading it out to me in text format here for whatever is showing up over here as the actual formula. So we're going to take a look at this one. And this one is a bigger, longer formula. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to highlight this and then click on View and zoom in so we can see this big and clear here. We already know we're going to get the answer of 0.01344. So let's come here though, select that cell, and we're going to go back to Formula tab and come over to the Evaluate formula right here. Let's just slide this up over here. And so you can see that it starts with B7. Now this is what I want you to do in your assignment. I'd like for you to write down step by step exactly what Excel does. And so you would say something like, well, it starts in the first parenthesis, and then it looks for the value of B7, and then it finds that that value is 2. And then it has to look for the value of G7, and it finds that it is 10. And inside of this first parenthesis, the order of operations has to be looked at. And so what we have are addition and subtraction. So in PEMDAS, the last two are addition and subtraction. So it does the addition first, 10 plus 2. And then it does the subtraction, but it's going to have to first of all find out what is in I5. So he evaluates that and gets a 6. So that 10 plus 2 became 12, and then minus 6, and then evaluate that, and it gives us a 6. And so you can see that inside of the first parenthesis, that first parenthesis evaluated as a 6. So what's it going to do next? We click on Evaluate, and it jumps over to the second parentheses. And it's going to look to see what the J8 is, and that's a 10. It looks at K4, and that's a 1. And so we wind up with 10 minus 1 minus K2. So it's going to take care of that first subtraction, and that is 10 minus 1 should be a 9, minus whatever it finds in K2, which is a 2. So 9 minus 2 is 7. And so right now we have finished working on that second parentheses. Now we still have a division, so it's going to be divide by K9 to the power of L8. So where do we go next? Excel will go straight to that 6 times 7 and resolve that side of that division problem, which is going to be 42. It's going to look for the value in K9, which is 5, and it's going to raise 5 to whatever value is in L8. So L8, let's see what that is. It's a 5. So 5 to the power of 5, so 5 exponent 5, that gives a value of 3,125. And so now Excel is going to divide what it found on those first two blocks of parentheses, which was 42, divided by that value, which was the exponent, and we get the result of 0.01344. And so I'd like for you to write down these and until you can get to where you understand exactly how Excel solves and evaluates all of these formulas. Because sometimes you're going to have a formula and the result is going to surprise you. You're going to think that can't be the result. And in fact, if you look just at this, I'm going to close this window. Look at this next formula down here that I want you to evaluate. That as you go through here, all of the values are the same. Everything is the same, except that I changed addition to multiplication, subtraction to division, and so on. And look at the difference in the answer. One answer is just a decimal, and then the other is a negative 3,000, but yet all the cell values are the same. And you'll learn here about how important it is to always properly use the order of operations as you build your formulas.